Hey, Mark. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you doing, man?
Oh, good. It's been a good day so far. So it's nice to kind of top off the day with a radio interview, which is nice.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm been really excited to actually do this. I've always had the idea of that. Well, I do a radio show. Maybe I could actually get a show. So
Yeah, well, oh well, thank you for classifying me as a person of
oh,
importance.
you're the most. You're. I've only had friends on my show, so you're the first sort of celebrity person I've ever had.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you are one of the main people of a YouTube channel called Fanboy Flicks. So when did you decide to start that show, or what
Uh,
what made you want to make that show?
well, always growing up, I used to watch movies with my friends, and sometimes we'd stumble upon bad movies, and I always used to just make jokes or quips, when we're watching the movie, and my friends used to say to me, they used to say, that's funny, like that's really funny, and I never really thought anything about it because that was just me just being a jerk. So later, I guess when I was after I was done college and I was in Toronto for a while. For a short time, I was in Toronto working on films, and I came back to my hometown, and I decided, I wasn't really doing anything really creative. I wasn't really working on any projects, and when I don't really work on any projects, I get frustrated. So I thought to myself, like, I have to do something. So I remember I was watching a movie with my friend, and it was a bad movie. I can't remember what movie it was, but anyways, he said to me, he says, you could like make like a podcast or like a video of just you talking about bad movies, and it could be pretty funny. So from then it just kind of became like a project. I just thought to myself, well, I'll just try it and see what happens. And my friend Scott, who's also really into movies, he was we were we have a bunch of movies, so let's just try this and just see how it works. And that's pretty much how it started. It kind of just started as like just a project just to see what I could do with it. And now it's at the point where it's like I have to produce every week because people expect from the past for the past 3 years.
Oh, no doubt. What is your process when it comes to reviewing your films? Like, how do you start
Well,
the whole thing goes about?
typically typically now the way it works is I'll pick a movie specifically and say, okay, this is going to be the movie for next week or whatnot. So I'll watch the movie, and I'll watch the movie once without taking any notes. And the watching the movie, I'll get distracted. I know I'll get distracted, and then I won't be paying attention to the movie. So I'll watch it once through, and then I'll go jokes when I'm watching it the second time. Then I'll write the script. I'll take all the jokes and all the things that I want to cover. I'll write a script, and then I'll shoot it, and then I'll just do the editing, which takes probably the longest time is doing the editing,
Oh yeah.
and the writing is probably the second longest, and really the filming only takes me about like a half hour or so now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say definitely. How do you how are you able to stay awake or interested when you're watching a movie for the second time?
Well, it can be hard sometimes because some of the movies are just so incredibly boring.
Oh yeah.
But the second time, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for, comedy ammunition. So I'm looking for the jokes that I can make out of the movie. So I'm still watching the movie, but I'm paying attention. I'm observing it in a different way. I'm observing it more from a comedian standpoint.
Hmm.
So it kind of takes on a different. It's I wouldn't say it's more entertaining, but I'm looking at it to more of what can I pick out of this movie that would make a funny joke or that would be funny.
Yeah, it's kind of like making a research project interesting for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sweet. Okay, I do admit that was one thing I always wondered how you did that. It's like, man, that would be boring. Just
Yeah,
what?
sometimes it can be, but if you go about it the right way and kind of just look at it from a comedian's, I guess, through a comedian's like point of view,
Oh
it
yeah.
makes it a lot more entertaining because then you're searching for the jokes instead of just sitting back and just like expecting stuff to happen.
Oh, no doubt. And you've done that for every movie you've reviewed.
Yeah, more so now. Back when I did the original videos, it was kind of the same process. We would watch with my old videos when we were on the couch. We watched the movies and then we would watch them again and just turn the cameras on the second time. So nothing was scripted. That was all improvised.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different this time because now I'm actually, writing a script instead of just, because what would happen before is I'd find in editing, I'd go through and I'd say, oh, I wish I would have, made this joke. Yeah, exactly. And now I'm able to do that. So it's I enjoy the process much more now. And also in terms of editing, it makes it a lot easier to edit because I'm not going through like an hour long piece of footage just trying to find the jokes, whereas now with the script I know where the jokes are.
Oh no, that does work out. That's probably a really good idea. This is one thing I've always, it's probably not even as complicated as I believe it to be, but where did the theme song come from?
This is GarageBand. I was when I first started the show, I knew I had to have some kind of music. And I just started searching around GarageBand, and I found that piece of music, and I just loved it, and I still love it.
It's classic, yeah.
And so I kind of just stole that, and just like, well, I mean, it's legal, right? It's all royalty free. So I thought to myself, well, this is like, I'll make this the theme when I started, and I just always stuck with it.
Oh no, it is I like the theme, and I do admit that. Every time I've watched it, I just always like
yeah.
You were talking about your old movies of you and Scott on the couch. Of that list, would you change any of them? I just want, because those are the videos that I first found you with, and I thought they've always been hilarious. I showed my girls, like when my girlfriend was watching, like she was at my house, I was like, you got to watch these guys. These guys are hilarious. And we were watching the Catwoman one, and it was funny. One of the funniest parts was when, actually, sorry, not the Catwoman one, but the Captain America one, is one, I couldn't believe you found that movie because I remember watching that when I was 5 years old, and I thought that was crap even then.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
yeah. And then I liked it just how you pointed out, Captain America just steals cars from people. Just like, hey, look what's over there. And then just runs around and gets into the car. Oh, I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, sorry, back to that question. Would you change any of the lists with films that have come and gone now? Or are you pretty solid with what you said?
I probably would. And it's probably it's probably also because when we shot that, we did that all in one weekend. So that was pretty much like we started on a Saturday and decided what films we were going to do, and then we shot them all on a Sunday. So now taking more time with it, I would probably refine the list a little bit more. I don't know if I'd make too many changes, but I think I'd definitely include, recently, a few months ago, I did a review on the original Fantastic Four movie from 1994.
Yeah.
And I would probably include that in the list. I think I'd probably take out Elektra and include Fantastic Four instead. And there's some other movies that people have suggested that I would probably like to watch and see if I can include them as well, like Steel with Shaquille O'Neal. I think there was like an original Punisher movie too before. That I would probably watch that too. But
I think it was with Dolph Lundgren.
Yes, was it? Okay, yeah, because it was like the 90s, I believe, right?
It was like apparently almost none of it was actually Punisher related. He just went around shooting people. It was like,
is that right?
Yeah, typical Dolph Lundgren movie. Did you go see that? Actually, I don't know. Did you subject yourself to going to see that I, Frankenstein movie?
No, not yet. I mean, when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, well, I think this could probably be like a new entry on the show. But I did. I mean, I like to give Aaron Eckhart the benefit of the doubt because, I like him as an actor.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
And I think with a lot of movies, I think that movie is, if you go into it knowing what it is, it's not going to be as bad as you think it is. I think a lot of times when I go see movies now, I go into them just thinking to myself, okay, it's going to be a sci-fi action movie or whatever it is, and don't expect too much from it. And when I do that, then I don't leave the movie as disappointed. Not to say that all movies are bad, of course, but sometimes I know when I'm, I remember seeing, when I saw Elysium with my sister, when we were walking out of the movie, she was surprised that I liked the movie. And I said to her, I was like, well, I liked the movie because I just pretty much went in just expecting it just to be like a sci was pretty pleased with that. And I think with a lot of movies, if you kind of know what to, if you go in kind of saying to yourself, well, don't expect too much from it, I guess, and of course, depending on the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then, a lot of times you can just sit there and just enjoy it for what it is and not take it too seriously.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because that's exactly what my friend and I do. My friend Wayne, we did like 2 episodes once of a show called What the Shite on the Listening the Movies YouTube channel, and we went and saw 2 really bad movies for the purpose of just, I don't know, making jokes about it. And
Right.
and that's kind of the same thing of what we had with I Frankenstein. We actually had I think a month where we actually just went and saw as many bad movies as we could just to have a good time and laugh at them.
Yeah.
And it's funny because what your process is, how you say you watch the film is exactly the same to ours.
Right.
Like there's one scene in the new Frankenstein movie where Miranda Otto is talking to Aaron Eckhart about just a whole war between these gargoyles and demons, and I leaned over to my friend and was like, "Oh, we have Queen exposition here." Because literally all she did for 20 minutes is explain the plot. Sorry, not even 20 minutes, like 10 minutes just explain the plot.
Yeah, just saying to the audience, this is what's going on and this is what's going to happen, pretty much.
And what's even funnier in that movie is later on he's talking to, I can't remember her. I don't know how to pronounce her name properly. Yvonne Stravinsky, pretty much Miranda from Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
She's what's going on? And he explains to her in this gruff voice. It's like, there's a war between gargoyles and demons. It's been going on for centuries. And she's like, oh, okay. She just takes it like, oh yeah, okay, that's totally normal. So no, it's funny how how similar our processes are. So what do you think of your fan base? Like how much do they mean to you, and just how much of you believe they influenced your show?
Well, without a fan base, you're nothing, right? I've always thought this is actually the first time, pretty much in my life, that I've had a fan base. I mean, I've been an entertainer and comedian pretty much my whole life, but I've never really was able to kind of, no pun intended, broadcast myself on a very big stage until I got tuned into YouTube. So for me now, it's incredible, number one, but number two, it's also something very new to me, and it takes a little bit to kind of condition yourself to, because whereas before I did everything just kind of when I wanted to do it and just whenever I felt like doing it, and now I'm at the point where I have to set myself a schedule, and I have to stick to that schedule in order to appease the fans, because the last thing you want is for your audience to not know when you're going to produce content. An important thing is to always I think it's always very important to stay connected with your audience and to always just kind of keep them informed as to when they're going to get the next piece of entertainment. So now it's so awesome to just see how many people have watched the show and that like the show from different parts of the world. I think that's in itself is absolutely it's so beyond anything that I could even imagine, because I've never experienced anything like that before. And I don't think we've really had, especially for, people that are just kind of independent and doing their own thing, we haven't really had that kind of stage before to really, have our material viewed by at such a, I guess you could say, a global scale, really. So it's always surprising to me when I see people from Norway or from, Europe that message me and say that they love the show, and it's so cool knowing that there's people pretty much all over the world that see my show and that they get it, that they get the comedy. Because from an entertainer and a performer standpoint, it makes you feel that you're not the only one that thinks your stuff is entertaining. It's always nice to know there's other people out there that find it entertaining.
It's like,
as well.
Yay, there's it's like those views aren't just me looking over my video and looking over the comments.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like I'm coming up on 30 now, and after about 30 years, I'm kind of like, all right, if no one's watching this show, then I might as well just stop. So it's always nice to see that, people are from all over the place get to see the show. And in terms of influencing what I've done, I love to hear their suggestions, because that's important, because otherwise then I have to spend the time to look for the movies. So a lot of the movies that I've done recently have been suggestions from people on the Facebook page or people on the YouTube channel suggesting movies for me to watch, which I'm so thankful for. And I'm also thankful that they're suggesting this movie to me because they want to see my take on the movie.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And, you know, I'd say also the fans have also kind of influenced the show in terms of, I mean, everybody has their different preferences. Some people say that they want longer videos. Some people say they want shorter videos. So I pretty much take everything into consideration. And then I try and kind of melt them together to try and get the best of both worlds. Because it's almost, I mean, it's impossible to please everybody. So you just kind of have to do your thing and take other people's suggestions and take that into consideration in what you're doing. And when you're done with the whole thing, you know, hope that it kind of satisfies both sides in some way, because the last thing you want to do is like piss off one group of people but satisfy the other group of people. So it's kind of, you know, it's like walking a tightrope. But I think the point that I am now with the show, this is really what, you know, I personally think is the right format for the show. And I can just hope that the fans enjoy it as well, because, you know, some people want stuff from the old videos, but based on the circumstances that I'm in now, that's not always possible. So you pretty much are always working with under the constraints of your life and what's going on in your life. It's not, since it's a YouTube channel and a YouTube show, it's not a big budget TV show where I can
pay paid.
Exactly, and I can't, you know, pay actors to come on and hold them to their contracts or whatnot. You know, these are just friends of mine and people. And as the show goes on and as your life goes on, things change. So, you know, some people may be spending more time with their girlfriends, or they may be, you know, spending more time in their careers and developing that. So I've always just stuck with the show because this is what I do and what I've wanted to do. So it's a little bit hard when people, you know, ask, you know, when are you going to bring back the other co-hosts? And I don't have an answer because I don't know, because they're doing their own thing and they're living their own lives, and that's totally cool. That's totally normal. So yeah, I think overall, I think the fan base is awesome. The fan base is so like I love hearing from the fans. I love connecting to the fans as well. And it's actually still really weird for me to think of them as fans. It's almost like I just kind of think of everybody as just kind of like friends that I haven't met yet.
Oh, that's a really cool interpretation of that. No, so actually, I guess that's a question I was going to ask later, but I might as well ask that now.
Sure.
Where are Scott and Matt now? Like, how are they doing?
Well, I mean, Matt, I think I talk to Matt pretty much every other day. And Matt works for a media company locally near me. So Matt's probably one of the hardest working people that I know. And Matt will be working, you know, into the hours of the night. Like right now this week, I know he has to like shoot. I think he has to stay up till 4 a.m. to get ready for like shoots at like 6 a.m.
Dang.
And that's kind of like alternating, right? And then he'll be, you know, at his office editing or doing whatever till late at night. So we talk, like the way we always kind of connect and talk is through Skype. So I might talk to Matt every other night or whatnot. And I don't really see him as much as I used to. I mean, the ratio I used to see him almost every weekend, and now I might see him maybe once a month. But he's doing well with that. And, you know, like I said, he's such an extremely hardworking person that I really Scott since probably August. Oh. So it's been a really long time. I mean, Scott lives an hour and a half away from me. So when we were in college, that's when Scott and I met, and we were roommates. So we became really close. But when we kind of moved back to our respective hometowns after college, you know, it became really hard to see each other and to do the show. And even more now, because, you know, 3 years later, now Scott's getting married and he's got, you know, a house and he's got his own responsibilities and he's got his own career, and I have my stuff. So it gets very, very difficult. And also, you know, your lives change and you change as people. And it's not that me and Scott have ever there was never like any kind of fight or anything like that. Of course, we've had problems between us as friends, like all friends do, but there was never, I don't think there was any major falling out between us. I think, everything's still okay. And even though that we don't talk, nearly as much as we used to, I don't think I still consider him a friend, as mine. And like, he's one of the reasons why, I was able to do this show in the first place. He was there in the beginning. So I don't overlook that, but, it would be nice to, it would be nice to talk to him again sometime soon, of course, because I never like to lose touch with my friends too much. But again, you have to kind of realize as you get older that, sometimes your friends kind of drift apart, and
distance and responsibility can really be a block in time sometimes for friends.
Oh yeah, exactly. And for me, I never take that as like offensively. I never expect anybody to want to put in the dedication to the show that I do, because quite frankly, like the dedication and work that I put into it is kind of crazy. So I don't expect anybody to share that. So there's no hard feelings between me or the other guys or anything like that. It's
good.
It's totally cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Well, kind of going back more so then to your show. What is your favorite movie or video favorite film you've reviewed, or what favorite video you've made?
It's kind of hard, but I think the favorite video that I've done has to be the Wicker Man review. And it's probably because I love watching Nick Cage so much. He's so entertaining every time.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Every time he's in a movie, right? Like there's going to be some kind of screaming. He's going to freak out at some point. So like he is probably one of my favorite actors just for sheer entertainment value.
Oh, no doubt.
And also just going through that film, I can remember the first time I saw that movie, and going back to watching that movie and reviewing it, it led me to do a lot of things comedically, on the show. So, parts in that video of me like throwing the TV out the window and things like that. I really like to do stuff like that. And sometimes movies, they lend themselves to having those little, comedic bits there that I get to really kind of challenge myself comedically and play with. Some films lend themselves to that, and some others not so much. But I really enjoy the Wicker Man review. I think if I had to pick one video, that's probably my favorite.
Oh, no, that's totally. I can totally understand that. Nick Cage is definitely a entertaining guy.
Oh yeah.
Did you know that for all the last few years, how he's made a bunch of crap load of movies? I knew that he had issues of tax, like he had tax issues a while back, but I did not know that he was doing those movies purely to pay off that tax. That's why he's been in so many crappy movies. I thought he was going to get written off because it wasn't part of him. It was his tax. It was his tax agent who had totally screwed up. But apparently, yeah, that's why he's done so many bad movies the last while. It's because he needed the money to fix that issue.
It kind of makes sense. And like, you can look at it and be like, oh, that kind of sucks. But at the same time, it's given him so much more exposure, and it's almost kind of I'd say almost elevated his career to like a different spot. Because you don't look at Nick Cage and say like, he's a brilliant dramatic actor. I look at Nick Cage now and say, oh, Nick Cage is in this movie? Okay, this is going to be hilarious. Let's watch it. It's going to be entertaining,
He's created a following for himself.
Exactly. It's a cult following, it's...
Oh, man. No, that's true. Just one more question before we take a little bit of a break here. Did you do reviews when you were younger? Did you write reviews for, I don't know, a newspaper, yourself, for friends, or anything?
No, I just kind of, I always just kept kind of like my movie stuff, like my opinions on movies kind of to myself. I mean, I'd voice them when I was with my friends, but I never did any writing because I hate writing.
Oh.
And yeah, I mean, writing is a big part of, doing, anything I think in comedy, but I'm one of the writers that I hate to write, but I love to have written. There's a big difference between the two. I like being done writing something rather than the actual writing process, which I hate.
No, the execution over the preparation.
Exactly.
Okay. So, okay, guys, we're gonna just go. This is Listening to the Movies. I'm your host Jeremy, and we are interviewing Mark for the Fanboys from Fanboy Flicks, and we'll be right back after these messages.
When you use a WarAmps key tag, it acts as a safeguard. If you lose your keys, the WarAmps can return them to you by courier. To order your key tags, contact the WarAmps at 1-800-250-3030 or waramps.ca.
Join Student Life as they put on a free pancake breakfast every Thursday from 8 to 10. So come on out and meet some new people. And hey, they're free pancakes, so what can you say?
Is today's hectic lifestyle making you tense and impatient?
Shut up and get to the point!
Haters Gonna Hate every Tuesday mornings, 11 to 12 here on 101.7 Civil Radio.
Hi guys, this is Listening to the Movies, the show where we play classic hits from great film soundtracks, but this time we're actually having an interview. We are interviewing Mark of the Fanboy Flicks YouTube channel, fellow Canadian, and so we were just talking before about how he does the process of his show, what he talks about, what the films how he processes the films, how he views his fan base and everything. So now we're going to kind of go a little bit personal, more so with you here, Mark, if this is all right.
Sure.
In 2013 of last year, you made a really long post about the status of the show, how people were always asking about Matt and Scott. And then you also mentioned later on that you had an anxiety attack. And that was pretty stressing. I remember even reading that thing. Oh, gosh. So for right now, how has your life been since the anxiety attack, and do you feel that the stresses have decreased since you've changed the show, like the format of the show?
I think since everything, what led to the panic attack was pretty much the pressure that I was putting on myself to do the show at the time. There were some other personal factors there. At the time, I was also going through a breakup, which actually part of the breakup was because of the time that I had to give to the show. That wasn't the whole thing, but it was part of it. So there was a lot of factors into why that happened. And really since then, there's still stress, but the difference is that I know how to manage it now. Mm-hmm. And also that the stress is, I can control the stress. And also I feel that it's stress that I put on myself. So really the key is just to kind of temper that and kind of, again, just learning how to manage my own stress, because I frequently, I'm quite a perfectionist with my stuff, with my work, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to constantly do the best. I'm pretty much my own worst critic, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does.
A pretty hard critic on myself. So now it's different. The format of the show is different, and I've kind of, I'm incredibly disorganized, and that's something that it's interesting in my family, because my sister, who's like the most organized person in the world, and then there's me, who's probably the most disorganized person in the world. I remember when I was a kid, and my parents said, "Why don't you put stuff away? Why is everything on the floor?" And I used to say, "Well, because then when I want something, it's right there. I can see it. It's on the floor, right? I don't have to look for it." So now it's kind of, I'm still disorganized, but I've kind of organized the chaos just a bit so that it's manageable. And I've now, in terms of setting myself boundaries, I think setting yourself boundaries is a really important part of pretty much anything. But like when you're doing a show, it's always important to know, okay, I'm going to work on this for this much time on this day, and that's going to be the day that I work on it. Instead of saying, well, I might work on it now, or I might work on it later, because what happens then is it never gets done. So now in order to, to be consistent with my material, I pretty much told myself, okay, I'm going to make a schedule for myself. And then to take it one step further and then broadcast that schedule for my audience to see, so that my audience knows when the show's coming out, because then they're going to hold that to me. Because it's one thing to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do this today. But then if you take it a step further and make it and kind of tweak the situation so that you have to do it on that day, then that completely, it changes. I think it changes things, and it changes things, and it makes it so that you're determined to do it and extremely motivated to do it for that day. Just doing the Sharknado review, which I released, I guess this morning. I guess you could say.
I just saw that. Yeah.
I started the editing of that yesterday because my weekend was kind of crazy, so I wasn't able to write or do the show. So I had to write the show on Sunday, shoot the show on Monday, and then completely edit the show yesterday, which I've never done. I've never edited a show just in one day like that. But I knew I had to do it because I had to get it out on Wednesday. So yeah, I think that's really important, is setting yourself those boundaries and really disciplining yourself to stick to it as well. So, after the panic attack, I think, things have been good. I haven't had any more symptoms of it since. And I guess things in my life I've managed to just kind of work everything out and just, again, set myself boundaries. And now I just feel completely more in control of everything. And with that sense of control, that's pretty much alleviated. The stress is still there, but I know how to manage it. And it's pretty much alleviated a lot of the chaos that was surrounding the show before.
No, that's definitely good that you've worked yourself out of the whole thing. And what you were saying about trying to set yourself boundaries as well as set yourself goals. I know what you mean. For my show, I was trying to do a film review of every single film that I would play on my show. Okay. I was like, oh, this sounds like this seems easy. This won't take me long. And I was all right with it, but then there was times like, I just can't freaking do it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And there's been times where I've taken big breaks. I've done it twice where I actually stopped doing it for a while, and it sucked because both of them were in the summer, and both of those summers I played some awesome soundtracks. But yeah, the idea of trying to set yourself goals, but also trying to kind of keep your sanity as well as just trying to keep your own schedule is definitely a challenging. And you were actually saying about keeping with just laying yourself boundaries and saying what you'll do. I do remember unless I'm mistaken here, but I remember you guys were hinting at a game show, like a gaming sort of related section of your show.
Yeah.
Whatever happened with that?
It's interesting you mentioned that because I've been working on it recently. I was working on it last week actually, and the thing is that I like to come up with a lot of ideas. That's the thing. I come up with so many ideas, and then
you overload yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I put too much on my plate, so to speak. With the gaming channel, and I've always wanted to do this, and I still do want to do it. In fact, I have the channel already up. The channel is called Fanboy Arcade, and I haven't launched it yet. I have the branding, I have everything ready to go for the show. The only thing that's stopping me now is that making sure that the format is right for the show so that I know exactly what I'm doing for it, which has been a big conflict with me because, I'll decide to do something like this and then, I'll go back and forth with it so much inside my own head of what I want to do. And I don't like to be inconsistent. I like to be inconsistent with all the material. So it's taken me a long time to kind of refine the format for it. And also,
is it going to be based off of what was your original idea, and I guess what it is now? Were you going to be playing bad games or just decent good games, your own opinion of games?
Well, originally I was going to do reviews of new games, and I quickly found out that can take a long time. So what I've been playing with recently has been reviewing old bad games, and that's kind of what I've been kind of flirting with the past week, is trying to figure out exactly how to do it. That's it's still entertaining, it's still funny. And then there was also kind of a show that I had, because believe it or not, when Matt plays Call of Duty or whatever it is, he is hilarious when he does trash talk. He is absolutely hysterical. We will just sit there and just listen to him talk to people online because he's so funny. He's so quick with his jokes. So there was we had a concept to do a show where that's what he does, and I would love to do that show. The only thing is getting Matt. Is to make sure is getting Matt to do that show, because I'm not good at it at all. I'm terrible at it. So there was that, and then we did shoot this 2 weeks ago. Matt and I actually I had Matt come over because Matt loves playing NHL on PlayStation. And so about 2 weeks ago, I had him come over, and we were going to play NHL together competitively, split screen on the PlayStation. And I said to him, I was like, I'm going to set up the cameras here, and we're going to roll on this, and we're just going to see what, if there's a show that we can get out of this. So I actually have that footage of us playing, and I have the game footage of the actual game that we were playing. Now it's just kind of seeing if it works and if I like it or whatnot. So I'm going to try a few different things with it. And also, one of the things that's kind of stopped me from launching Fanboy Arcade right now is just nailing down the schedule for Fanboy Flicks, because I know if I can be consistent with the Fanboy Flicks schedule, then I can move on to Fanboy Arcade and say, okay, now I can tackle this mess and try and make something out of this now. Because otherwise, then I'm overloading myself and I'm spreading myself too thin, which is never.
Don't want to do like you said, spread yourself out and just be like, you got too many projects on your hand, and
exactly
then you got no time.
Yeah.
Oh no, I look forward to that. Then that's definitely something I wanted to see what you guys were actually going to do with that when you announced it. So I'm definitely excited. Speaking of that show, have you ever had thoughts of doing something else on YouTube, or do you find that you're just
all the time?
Oh.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty much like, I'd say, like, I don't know, every other day I come up with an idea for another show to do on YouTube. And it's been happening a lot lately. Part of it is because I'm such an idea person. I'm always coming up with ideas. I'll come up with like a few ideas during the day, then I'll come home and then I'll sit and think about them from like a practical standpoint and realize that I can't do them. That's usually what happens. But 9 times out of 10, most of my ideas, they don't pan out into ever actually taking or like materializing at all. But like that 1%, I'll actually go ahead with and actually try. So sometimes, recently I've come up with so many different ideas for like YouTube shows, because the last thing I want is just to be known as like the guy who just does bad movies. As much as fun as that is, and as much as like I owe all of the fans that I have, which my fan base, most people would probably think it's pretty small, but to me, I mean, that's like it's pretty awesome that I've made any fan base just talking about movies.
Yeah.
But in terms of like looking at myself, as a comedian and as an entertainer, I want to challenge myself more, comedically and creatively. And, really the biggest challenge with doing Fanboy Flicks is just the schedule of it, and just, trying to make sure that it gets done. So, I've always been kind of flirting back and forth with, trying to set up like a new video. The only thing is figuring out what that new show would be and if I would have time to do that show. So I have a lot of things on the shelf that I've come up with that I say, okay, when I figure out Fanboy Flicks completely, then I'll go and I'll look at that and see if I can actually make something of that. The whole thing is like, and being an entertainer, I guess it's always about finding an audience. Every entertainer is just trying to find their audience, because you could be the funniest person in the world, but if nobody watches you, then it doesn't matter. You're completely irrelevant. So finding an audience is kind of like what you're always trying to do. It's what I've always done my whole life, is trying to find my audience. And then once you have that audience, then your options are, you can do so many different things. You're able to, play and experiment with so many different things creatively. So I have always wanted to do a show, and it's and I have this show that I've been writing this show in my what little spare time that I do have, and it's a comedy web series. And I've always said to myself, okay, I'm going to put this on the shelf, and once I get the audience that I want with Fanboy Flicks, then I'll be able to finally do this show, because then I'll have the audience to watch this show. And also I'll have the backing to do the show as well, because there are people that are going to want to see it. So that's kind of like been the one big thing that I have on the shelf, I guess you could say. is that web series. And, constantly you're trying to come up with new ways to make the show funny or whatnot. But a lot of the times I have to just tell myself to shut up and just keep doing what I'm doing, because if I get too distracted, then I'm going to lose. If I get too distracted, then what I'm doing is going to kind of lose the essence of what made it entertaining and funny in the first place. Mm-hmm. And then I risk losing my audience. So.
No. Oh, that's a lot. That's definitely...
If that makes sense at all.
Oh, yeah, no. What you were saying about your show of ideas, one of my favorite shows you did, I think you only did 2 episodes of it, was, if I'm correct, it was called Late Night Soapbox.
Yeah, Late Night Soapbox.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite ones. And you were mentioning how you like the comments of the fans earlier. I actually remember seeing that one comment of the guy who was talking about your audio levels and how he was pointing out what you could have done to fix that thing. And I thought that was really awesome that the guy wasn't a jerk about it. You had a good loyal fan there that was pointing out something helpful, and you commented on right after saying thanking him for his input on that. But I thought that show was really good. But then, as you say, with the ability of really it's just yourself, I could see why Late Night Soapbox has kind of been on the shelf, because you kind of need 2 people to have a discussion, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it gets a little harder to do that, so.
So what are your future goals for the show? Besides this, I'm guessing that this web series that you say is one of them, but is there any and the gaming show? But is there anything else, or is that really you're trying to just kind of keep yourself focused on those right now?
Yeah, I think really the goal of the show is to build the audience, and if as long as I can keep doing the show, I always feel that you should always find your work entertaining. And the second that you're just doing it just to do it, and you're not finding it entertaining, or you're not finding happiness in it all, then it's kind of like, well, then, what are you doing as an entertainer? You're not doing it for the entertainment anymore. You're just doing it for whatever it is, the money or whatnot, right? So building the audience is number one, because and also staying really kind of true to what you
want to do.
Exactly. And kind of, and also clarifying that I know exactly where I want to go with the show. And again, there's more ideas there's 2 shows that I'm working on right now that I might bring onto the channel soon. So I'll see how they perform once I release them. But I'm always going to do the bad movies, because the bad movies are the most popular.
Yeah.
But so yeah, right now, the future plans of the show is really just to keep building the audience as much as I can. And I know that that's going to happen if I just keep going with what I'm doing now, instead of constantly coming up with new ideas of how to change it and doubting myself. Because as an entertainer, you can be your own worst enemy. And I've done this for the past 2 years, as I've kind of been how do I change it? How do I make it better? How do I get more views? And finally, my ex-girlfriend told me, she's like, look, you got to just stop it. And you got to just keep doing what you're doing right now, because this is the first point when I reformatted the show back in last spring. She said, this is the first point where you actually feel like you completely know what direction you want to head in. So don't deviate from that. Keep going on that, because that's what you want to do, and that's you. And the second that you stop being you, then that's when you're not gonna have the audience anymore, because people came to the show because of you. So, and that's why people like the show and what they find entertaining. So don't deviate from that. Stay on that track. And then, eventually, I'd like to believe that I'm going to find the success that I want from doing that.
Oh, no, that's definitely a good idea to stick with it, just to keep, that's the problem that most YouTube people sometimes have, is that's why some shows always go into the dirt, is that they're always trying to branch themselves out too far before they even really set themselves down.
Exactly.
So the idea that you are keeping just with what you believe is possible, and what works and what sticks is definitely good for yourself, and is also good for the show.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're gonna kind of go into a little bit more, not so kind of more so personal, but just more so your hobbies and what you like. The one thing I do have to ask is, what is your job? What is your regular job? Besides,
it's kind of like the big mystery, right?
I've actually wanted to know is like, what does he do that he works till 5? It's like 8 to 5, man. And yeah, what do you do?
I'm actually Batman during the day, because Batman does all his stuff during the night, so he needs me to fill in during the day. But it's funny because I've always kind of alluded to in my notes or whatnot a full-time job. My full-time job is I'm actually a real estate photographer.
Really?
And
I did not think that. Wow.
A lot of people are surprised because they're like, well, that's not a full-time job, but I work for a great company, and literally I wake up every morning and I just get a list of houses that I have to go to and shoot. So I'll shoot houses, and believe it or not, it's more than a full-time job, because I'll shoot anywhere from 6 to 8 houses a day. And then I'll come home and then I have to edit all of those photos. So you're looking at, anywhere from, 40 to 50 photos for each house. So, you could be looking at like, anywhere from like 400 photos to edit by the time you get home. So I'll spend anywhere from probably around like, sometimes 10 to 14 hours a day just doing that. And then once I'm done all that, because obviously that has to be my number one priority, because that's, what's putting food in my mouth. After that's all done, then I start working on the show.
I just like that you said food in my mouth. Like, not food on the table, food in my mouth.
Yeah.
Very, very, very much a realist. Oh, that's kind of cool, actually. Is that what you went to school for? Or?
Well, I went to school for broadcasting. So I learned, and then I learned radio, television, and film. And then I majored in film. And, I never expected that I was going to find a steady job. And that was the one thing I was always scared about. I was like, what am I going to do? And when I found this job, and I never thought, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll do this for now, because, at the time, we were just starting the business. And now over the past, I've done it for like, I don't know, almost 4 years now.
Wow, good for you.
Now it's the best job I've ever had. I mean,
that sounds fun.
Any photographer to have a full-time job shooting photos all day is like, that's like the unicorn, right? Like nobody, that's like the unattainable thing as a photographer, just to have a steady job like that. So I'm extremely thankful to have, basically my life is I take photos during the day and I make videos at night. So I really can't complain about my job at all, because I truly love it.
Oh, no, that's awesome. That's actually the last thing I thought you would be. I thought you would be, I had a thought of, for some reason I had something of a factory worker, a guy someone who works in a cubicle for some sort of banking business, or a person who holds the boom mic at a news station.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, those were my thoughts. Oh,
I don't have the upper body strength for that anymore.
Oh no, fudge, man, that kills. For one of my film classes, we did an interview with Native Indians talking about residential school day, and we had this one lady, and we asked her the first question. We had I think we had 10. We asked her the first question. I was holding up the mic, and she just started going on and on, and like, oh God, no. Oh, and by the end, one of the people was like, "Are you all right? Please end this interview soon. My arms are gonna fall off."
That's why you always gotta, as soon as it starts, you always gotta get in the right stance for it. Like some people put the pole over their shoulders.
Yeah,
I prefer to hold it in my crotch.
Yep, I've seen that too. Yeah. Oh man, no, that's funny. No, I know exactly what you're doing because I've tried that too. Okay, so kind of more light stuff here. What was your favorite film of last year? There was a lot of good movies. There's a lot of bad movies too, but there were some really good ones like Gravity, Wolf of Wall Street, and
there was. I saw. There's a lot of. I was gonna do short reviews on some of these movies, but I never got the chance. Because I saw Wolf of Wall Street, I saw American Hustle, I saw Lone Survivor, but I think probably my favorite film was Gravity, and the reason was because as an audience member sitting there, I felt very immersed in the experience of it.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I don't usually like 3D movies, but I loved watching that movie. Like I saw it in 3D, and I just loved sitting there watching the movie. And constantly, as a filmmaker, anybody who's in media or film or whatnot, you kind of almost grow up to ruin movies for yourself, so to speak, because now when you watch a movie, you always there's always like the gears are always kind of turning in the back of your head as how did they do this?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was watching Gravity, I was thinking that for about 10 minutes, and my friend said to me, he's like, dude, just stop it and just enjoy it and just stop thinking about how they did it and just enjoy it for what it is. And when I did that, I was totally immersed in the movie, and I really loved how they managed to really kind of pull you into space. And throughout the whole movie, there was like, I always kind of felt that anything could happen at any moment. And that doesn't happen too much with movies with me now, because I kind of, there's a lot of movies kind of more, not all movies, but a lot of movies that come out during the year they kind of go to a formula where
you're able to kind of you're able to kind of predict what's going to happen, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I know that feeling.
I really love when a movie can kind of introduce a new experience to me as an audience member. And so that's why I think it would be Gravity, just because, again, it was like the experience of being in the movie theater with it. Because honestly, I hate going to the movie theaters now for many, many reasons. But I enjoyed being in the theater watching that movie.
Is one of those reasons why the people who go there with the beer bottle hidden in the paper bag?
That's actually happened once to me before. Those people happened to be sitting behind me, and it was quite disturbing.
I totally know. I went and saw Shutter Island, and one of the guys behind me was drinking, and he picked up his phone and he started having a conversation on the phone for like 2 minutes. It's like, shut the flip up.
Yeah, sometimes that happened once when I saw Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and the theater was packed, and someone was talking on their phone, and I was thinking to myself, come on, man, like, we all know that you're not, like, what are you doing? Like, if someone else was doing that to you, like, behind you wouldn't enjoy that at all.
You'd be flipping out.
But there's just so many things with the movie theater now, parking and like finding finding a seat. I hate finding a seat because my friends always we have a battle for the seats because my friends always have to sit in the dead center of the theater. And I always like sitting on the aisle because I like having just the,
You mean you like sitting off to the side?
Yeah, I like sitting off to the side, but I'll sit in the middle as well, as long as I get the seat that's on the aisle. Like I actually really I didn't think I would like it until my sister said, "Okay, just sit there for this movie, and trust me, it's not that bad." And I sat there, and I didn't notice any difference watching the movie. In fact, now every time I go to the theater, I prefer to sit on the side or in the center aisle seat.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like some people think, like, well, I don't want to be turning my head to the right. You're not.
No, you're not.
The screen is so massive, and you're not going to notice it. But my friends are super like neurotic with that stuff, or they're like, no, we're sitting right in the middle.
Yeah.
Like, completely dead center into the theater. And of course, when it's like, a film is just opening, then you're just kind of like in the middle of just a mass of people, and I don't enjoy that experience.
Yeah, my brother is the same. He hates going to movies now because of that reason. I didn't mind so much until I went and saw Skyfall, and you know how the IMAX? Do you have an IMAX out where you live?
Yes, but I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think.
Do you know what? Like, the IMAX are the really big, like, huge, massive screens, and they were the first ones to have the leaning back chairs before they got the AVX.
Okay, yeah.
And I was watching one, and I kind of I was leaning back a little bit, and there was this guy behind me, who I don't know what his problem was, but all of a sudden, like right at the point where Bond goes to the Japanese gondola casino. This guy shoved his legs into the back of my chair, and I wasn't able to lean back at all. And that's all I could think about for the rest of the movie. Yeah. And then when my friends was like, "Oh, you want to go to the movies?" I was like, "No." I was like, "What? Yeah, are you serious? Are you having PTSD just about a guy who sat behind you?"
But that's like small things like that can ruin the experience for you, like just somebody, for some reason, I always feel like somebody is like tapping the back of my seat, and I'm like, my feet aren't, and I'm 6'1", I'm not a short guy. My legs are pretty long. So my feet never touch the seat in front of me when I'm at the theater.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are you doing that you're constantly having to hit my seat and disturb me.
Off. Oh,
So,
man. No, I totally know what you mean. Yeah, there's some really horrible experiences you can have when you go. You know, the one place that I sit, actually, I did it for a long time, and then I stopped. And when I sat back down there, my brother's like, "Wow, I'm kind of surprised we haven't sat here in a while." Was, you know, it always works more so when you come in from the left. When you're walking into the theater, coming in the left side. I actually went up and back, and I sat right on the seat that was closest. I guess there was the last seat on that aisle. So you could put your feet up on top of the entranceway.
I know what you're saying.
And I sat there for a full year of movies. I just went to that spot, like, boom, right there. No one ever sat behind me, and I loved it. I loved that seat. And
the side seats like that, like, believe it, because like a lot of people, like we were saying, you know, they don't want to sit on the side because they think it's going to ruin the experience for them, but it doesn't. And you can also then you get like your privacy, because those seats on the side usually they're kind of like divided off, and there's only like 1 or 2 or 3 seats there on the side, right? So it's not like you're going to have to constantly get up for people leaving to go get snacks or go to the washroom or whatnot.
No.
You're pretty much kind of like in your own little section there.
Oh, all right. So, well, we actually got like 1 more minute left for for this interview here. Just wanted to ask you this quick one, just for the sake of the show. What is one of your favorite film soundtracks that you can think of?
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I had a feling you would say that too. That's what a lot of people say.
I love Pulp Fiction. I also like Kill Bill, the soundtrack for Kill Bill as well. And Goodfellas as well was pretty good.
Yep, that's a great one.
And Wolf of Wall Street had a good one as well recently.
Yeah, it did.
And American Hustle. I like that one. Recently when I saw American Hustle, I really liked the soundtrack on that movie as well.
No, that's awesome. No, those are all great soundtracks too. And I actually have the Pulp Fiction one that I'm going to be playing sometime this year.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Mark, thanks for being on the show here.
Thanks for having me.
This was a great interview. This was really eye-opening to what you do, and just, you know, your personal life, and just the fact that you're a house photographer is still baffling to me. But no, thank you so much for being on the show, man. This was great, and thanks again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
CIVL is pleased to bring you daily news updates between every CIVL radio program during the week. CIVL's community news updates were initiated with help from the Community Radio Fund of Canada thanks to a 2011 grant allowing CIVL to hire a community news editor for 8 months. CIVL currently produces community news updates every day with the help of the UFV Work Study Program. So tune in and get informed with CIVL 101.7 FM, your campus community radio in the Fraser Valley.
Thank you for supporting your award-winning campus and community radio station, CIVL 101.7 FM, 2011 recipient of the Fraser Valley Cultural Diversity Award for Outreach and National Community and Campus Radio Community Development Award. We now broadcast throughout Langley with the new tower in West Abbotsford, shared with the CBC. Let us know how far away you listen to Civil at info@civil.ca.
At any cost? How far would you go with that? How far would you extend that? Well, just watch me.
Hi, I'm Larry Portlands for CIVO Radio. Do you like the Canadian identity? Do you want to know how you can do more? Why, it's simple. Listen to the CanCon Container Ship Mondays from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. on CIVO Radio. I hope you enjoy the music.